Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on the UCAN show. I'm Varun, absolutely thrilled to be joined by Olympian Carrie Tollefson. Hey
Hey
Carrie, what's
everyone.
going on?
Hi, Varan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for spending your lunchtime hour a little bit before lunchtime for you in Minnesota with us. And thanks to everyone who is joining us live and spending perhaps your lunch break with us today. Really excited to have Carrie on here and talk about a lot of different things, but really hone in on a recent awesome accomplishment Carrie had, setting her marathon PR, breaking the 3 hour mark at the Twin Cities Marathon a couple weeks ago. So we're going to chat with Carrie all about how she did it, how she fueled, how she trained, get into all the good stuff that people want to know. And we do want to allow you, we're going to spend about the next 40 to 45 minutes with Carrie, but if you have any questions for Carrie, we want to leave the last 10 to 15 minutes of this for you. So feel free to ask us questions in the chat, and Carrie's an open book. So we will go rapid fire with Carrie at the end. But Carrie, before we kind of dive into what happened most recently, you are in terms of a runner, an Olympian in 2004. You work with Moms on the Run, so you're connected to a lot of new runners and first-time runners. You're on the broadcast of all the major marathons, so you're very connected both through that and your podcast to the elite side of the sport and the pros. You've kind of seen it all and done a little bit of it all in running. Tell us a little bit about your connection and background in the sport.
Yeah, I grew up in the sport. I started running when I was 12, so it's been a long time. I'm 42 now. That's not like my favorite stat to tell you, but 30 years in this sport, and have absolutely loved it. I've loved the whole journey of learning the sport and then, trying to kind of nail the sport at a certain point in my life. And then now just sort of enjoying it in a different way, but also teaching the sport, through my voice on TV, through my podcast, through coaching. I coach girls on the run as well, as moms on the run, and I have some personal clients. And I also just love learning the sport, through you with your product at UCAN and your background in the sport, and also, just through everyone that I talk to. Everyone has their own journey, and we can learn from each other, whether we're 6 hour marathoners or, now 159-hour marathoners, whatever. I mean, it's everyone can learn from runners, and it's been a pretty important part of my life.
So for you as a professional and as an Olympian, you were a middle distance runner, so you were competing a lot on the track. Now you've become a marathoner. Now this is the second marathon you've run. Your first one being back in 2013. What's the connection to the marathon? What's drawn you personally to the marathon over the last several years?
Well, to be honest, I've been really scared to go back to the track. After I had Everett, who was born in 2013, he was born May 30th in 2013. I still I kind of anticipated I would go back and maybe compete again. And I kept trying. Even before, when Ruby was born in 2010, I came back in 2011, tried to make the Olympic trials in 2012. And to be honest, Varn, I know that I could have made those trials in 2012, but I didn't have it in my heart. And at that level, you have to have it in your mind, your body, your soul, everything. You got to want it bad. And I just kind of wanted to be a mom and to be doing other things. So I didn't make the trials in 2012. And then I was just kind of running and enjoying it, but a little bit of afraid to go back to the track. There's a lot of pressure when most tracks are 400 meters around and you know exactly your pace and you know the paces that you've hit in life. And I wasn't going to hit those paces. And so I'm human like everybody else. The track scared me. The distances scared me. Time scared me. The pain scared me. And it still does, so I kind of gravitated away from the track and even away from racing because I knew if I laced up the shoes and I towed the line, there would be some pressure. There would be, even if it was just from me, but people knew I was a good runner or I knew I was a good runner. And I was scared to kind of fail or not be that good runner. So it took me some time, but I did do the marathon right after Everett was born because I had every excuse to not have to run fast. Isn't that terrible? Like, I just was nervous that people would, put all these expectations on me. But I had a 4 month old, so there was no expectation. And then I decided to go back to it here in what is the year 2019. And still, again, really had no expectation. But all my kids are older, and I was excited for it to be about me again and not just about, losing baby weight or, trying to put myself first. It was just that I was excited to be me again and to be that runner that maybe got a little competitive. And I did get competitive in the race.
You also got competitive in terms of coming into this race with your husband. So tell us a little bit about the competition at home and what was there a little bit of fuel there to run this race and perform as well as you did?
Oh, definitely. To be honest, I got a little cocky in 2013. Like I thought, oh, I'm going to beat Charlie's record. His record was 3:01. And I thought I could do that, right? Well, the marathon's a beast. And those of you who have run marathons, you all know this. And it attacked me with 6 miles to go. And I had to walk and I was going through everything. I was seeing white like crazy. And, obviously my blood sugar was down. I couldn't really move the last 3 miles. I was still feeding Everett, so I was breastfeeding a baby, and so I was already kind of dehydrated and a little bit malnourished, probably going into the race. I had to pump right before the race, like 'cause I had all these factors that were going against me. And when I finished that race, Charlie was like, "Yes, still got the house record." So, yeah, coming into this race, I'm like, I have got to do this. Like everyone was asking if I was trying to get the Olympic trials qualifier. Nope. Are you trying to do this? Nope. All I'm trying to do is get a new house record and get under 3 hours. So mission accomplished. Bragging rights have come back to me, but I haven't been that mean about it. I just every now
You're
every
too
now
nice of a person. You're too nice of a person to really rub it in. I know, but I hope you are getting your jokes in and your bragging rights in. And we just saw the 2 hour marathon barrier broken recently, which was incredible. But the breaking 3 hour marathon, for somebody that is kind of has a certain level of fitness, has been used to training. I mean, breaking 3 hours is kind of that like really big goal for a lot of people. How did that feel to come in under three for you, just independent of the record?
Yeah, it was really exciting. To be honest, the entire way I was thinking, I went out too fast. I went out too fast. That's what I did the last time. I was trying to do all this math, and I mean, I loved math growing up. I still like math, and it's hard to do math when you're running that far, right? I mean, you kind of lose all sense of thought for a while. And the guys around me, we were all like trying to figure out what pace we were running because our GPS watches were going off before the mile markers that Twin Cities in Motion put out. So we were still like wondering if our GPS was wrong or the mile markers were wrong. And when I got down, the last mile for me was really hard. And we can go through the race if you want, but the last mile was my hardest mile. I felt really good up until about maybe 24 and a half miles. And the last mile is kind of downhill on your way home. And I could start to see the clock, and there was a guy that was having some issues right in front of me. He was way in front of me, but I was catching him because he was cramping. And I couldn't stop at that point. I had like 150 meters to go because I had just seen the clock, and it was like 2:51:42 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it was like 50 meters to go, but it looked further away than it probably was. So I tapped him on the back, gave him a big, like, you can do this. I knew he was fine. He wasn't, in cardiac arrest or something. I would have stopped, obviously, for something big like that. But I had to put my sprint on. The 1,500-meter runner had to come out in me. I mean, it looked like one, but I put it on and just squeaked under 2:52. So it was pretty exciting that last mile for me. I knew I was running fast, but once I saw the sub 2:52 was in reach, that was really kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was wild. Just being able to track you and seeing the splits and then seeing the finish time. It was like, wow, Carrie crushed it. She really you really crushed that sub three mark. And it's interesting to hear you talk about kind of what was going through your head in the final moments. We're going to come back to talking a little bit more specifically about the race and kind of both the strategy that you employed for it as well as how you fueled for it. But kind of taking a step back, Carrie, like, so you just jumped into the marathon, or I shouldn't say you just jumped into the marathon. You decided to run the marathon this year, and it was your first marathon in 6 years. So the last one was 2013. But tell us a little bit about like how you approached training over those years. You know, it's not kind of like you went from 0 to 60 to run this marathon, right? You had been training, maintaining a certain level of fitness. So even outside of prepping for a race, what's been your approach to fitness and training over the last several years?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have this lifestyle that a lot of people do now, not like a professional runner anymore. I do work from home, but I travel a lot. Almost I'd say at least every 2 weeks, if not every week, a lot of times during the year. And um, so I have to figure out how to fit it in. And so one thing that I do is I'm a real big believer in the 20-minute runs. And I think you and I have talked a lot about this, but over the course of the year, I probably do 20-minute runs 3 times a week. And those 20-minute runs sometimes are pretty hard where they're, maybe even quicker than what I run for marathon pace. There might be closer to what I would run for 5K pace. I kind of have 5K pace and marathon pace. And that's what I do a lot of my runs at. So they're all pretty quality runs. My mileage is pretty low in respect to what I used to run, right? So I might tell you guys I run 20 to 40 miles a week. And a lot of people might say, wow, that's still a lot. But I would have to say the majority of runners out there think that that's very doable. If you're a veteran runner, a lot of people are doing 40, 50 miles a week and working 40, 50 hours a week at their jobs. So I think the big thing for me is consistency. I rarely do I have a full week of nothing. Rarely do I have a month where I haven't gone out for a run. I've been healthy enough that I can get out there most days if I want, but I do take one day a week always off, if not 2 days off. So I just think the consistency of getting out the door, whether it's for 20 minutes or for a 2-hour run, that's what I've done. And I'm not afraid of days off. If something comes up, I take days off quick. I don't run through sore Achilles. I don't run through, sore hamstrings. I just take rest because I can do that now and I have to do that now. If I don't have the run, Varn, like for me, I'm not nearly as happy. It is good for my soul. Today I went for a run with my sister and I've missed her so much. And yeah, she will tell you where our pace was slower. But we went through all kinds of things on that run where we kind of, maybe had some real serious conversation, and we went to light conversation, and we went to emotional conversation. And the run for me is so important because I need it in my life. It is my therapy, and I say that a lot. And so for me, the consistency, having that mental health and keeping that in check has been a big thing the last few years. On top of that, and I'm a talker, Varn, so you might not get that.
I love it. This is so valuable. That's why I'm letting you go. This is amazing. Keep it rolling.
At least we don't have a producer in our ear saying rap, right?
Yeah, right. That's right. I won't start playing the Oscar violins for you or anything.
Okay, good. Please don't. But the last 3 years since Greer was born, so Greer is 3.5, my youngest child, and I've been doing this long run challenge, and I do it about 2 or 3 times a year. And some of you who are watching maybe have seen it on Instagram because I post my watch, and some might like it, some might not, but it's my accountability. And I don't really share my pace to, show everyone that I can run a 7-minute mile for 20-minute miles. It's more for me to say, oh my gosh, last week I did 18 miles at this pace. I want to be roughly close to that. And now the whole entire world knows if they want to know about it. So what it is I start at 10 miles and I go up to 20 miles. So I add 1 mile each week to my long run. And for years, I didn't do anything with that fitness. After I got to 20 miles, I'd be like, okay, that was fun. Now I'll just go back to my 20-minute runs for the next few months until I'm bored, and then I'll start the long run challenge again. But this year, I decided to use that fitness that I gained from those long, hard runs and see if it worked for the marathon. And I think now that's my new trick. Like, I really like the long run challenge. I think people could start from 0 and go to 8 for 8 weeks or whatever it is, 9 weeks. They could add a mile to their longer run. If they want to do it for a half marathon, they could do that, or for the marathon. But it's a fun way to every week kind of challenge yourself just a little bit more. And then when you're done, you celebrate and you either run a marathon or half marathon, or you just eat ice cream for the next 2 weeks, whatever you want.
That's so there's kind of 2 really interesting things that you talked about that are kind of different types of training. So I want to talk a little bit with you about both of them. So the 20-minute workout, and just that kind of element of not building it up to have to always be so long where it's, perhaps it's like, oh, I don't have an hour today, so it's easier to keep skipping it. Like, I'd say for most people, even people who have extremely busy lives, like you can find 20 minutes to carve out and get this done. So for you, is that something that is always done outside? You mentioned like you're traveling and you have to learn how to fit it in. Are you somebody that says sometimes I'll train indoors on a treadmill and get my 20 minutes that way? Yeah, just kind of maybe a little bit like how structured is that? Do you always like to do it in the mornings, or is it truly for you sometimes like whenever I can find 20 minutes in the day, I'm going to get out there and run?
Well, the 20-minuter has been, I call it that, the 20-minuter has been a lifesaver to me. Because, say I get off an airplane and I have, just an hour or an hour and a half before I have to go to a meeting when I get in New York or wherever I am, I can get outside for 20 minutes and get a super good workout in. Or say I'm in Chicago and it's raining and it's cold like it was last weekend, and I didn't want to be out in the dark because I'm kind of scared of the dark now. I have 3 children to get home to, a husband. I just don't like it. I don't like people that are out there at that time. If I'm in the mountains, I'm scared of mountain lions. I'm like scared in my own old age. But the 20-minuter on a treadmill is so doable. Like, ask me to run 10 miles on a treadmill, I have to really work myself up to it. But if I go and do a good 20-minuter, or I do some sort of intervals for 20 minutes, it goes by so quick, and you get a good workout in. So if I could have an ideal situation, it would be, 7:30 in the morning, straight from my house for 20 minutes. I love that. I warm up, maybe I jog for 5 minutes, and then I hammer for 15. And I killed 2 birds with 1 stone. I get in 3 miles, and I also get in a good quality workout. I do a thing, I'm doing this new Strides channel with Wellbeats, and we have some 20-minute workouts that are so good. And you can do that either outside, you can have me coaching you in your ear, or on the treadmill. And I just think people will understand that if you don't have an hour to do a workout, don't just throw the day out, like, just don't say, oh, there's no workout today because I don't have an hour. You can get in some good work in 20 minutes. And it doesn't have to be that you have to get 3 miles in. Even if it's a mile or a mile and a half that you get in those 20 minutes, you can get a lot of work done. So for me, I just keep telling myself that, and it's been a lifesaver.
I think that's great. And I mean, the fact that you've put together some of your workouts with Wellbeats to actually guide people on, because sometimes it's like, okay, I can do this for 20 minutes, but what should I do in those 20 minutes that's most productive? So because so many times I think for runners, there's this mentality of like time and distance equals productivity, right? So if it's like, yeah, just getting some guidance on what do I do in 20 minutes, that's awesome. Let's go to the other side of it. So the long run challenge. So that's I think that's kind of a fun idea in terms of a way for people who aren't signed up for a race and training for it. A lot of times training can be so race specific, right? And then it's like, if you don't have a race on your calendar for whatever reason, you don't get into one of the big races, or it doesn't fit into your schedule, then a lot of people might lose fitness. So kind of creating a way to challenge yourself that's not based around a race. Like how did the idea and inspiration come to you? And how productive do you find that when you did jump into a marathon this year and you're like, hey, because I've been doing this, even if I haven't signed up for a race, I'm already at a certain level?
Like, it works so much that I want to trademark it, to be honest. And
I'm like UCAN long run challenge. I think we've already found an idea to kick off the training season next year.
I do think it works. I mean, I did go up after. So if we go to the marathon, how I used it, I did do a 22 miler, but I did need a little down week. So that's why I didn't go 20, 21, 22, and then come down. I just needed a down week. But now that I have my marathon training in me, I might be able to do from 20 to go to 21 to 22. So that might be the next experiment. But my long run challenge started because when Greer was 10 weeks old, I was like, okay, it's time. Like, I need to do something that's fun. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to do intervals where on the track again. I was a little bit nervous of that. I liked the long run because it gave me time to visit with my friends and go and actually try and run with some of the girls that are on Team USA Minnesota, or some of the guys, or some of their husbands, or whatever it was, it just gave me time with my friends. I don't get to go out very often anymore because I travel so much that when I'm home, I want to be home. And so that is kind of like my happy hour. I call it that. No, there's no drinking involved. There's just a lot of, we don't really put calories in, we burn calories. Well, I shouldn't say that. We put some calories in, but, it was just a fun way for me to get out the door. So Greer was 10 weeks old. So every week that he grew, I grew my long run. And, that's how it all started. And like I said, I do it about 2 or 3 times a year. I think there's something to it, Barn. It's really weird. Like if I should have an exercise physiologist like look at it, but I kind of lock in at a certain pace, like roughly within like 20 seconds. And every week pretty much stay there. And I just keep adding mileage to it, and my pace stays the same. And I guess it's roughly right around where I would run a marathon at. And I didn't even really know that's how it would happen, but I guess it's my marathon pace because I'm not doing maybe a lot of other marathon specific workouts. That becomes my hardest day of the week. So I run my long runs pretty hard.
It's just that's so fascinating to hear. And it's like really just speaks to the power of building that foundation of fitness, and that consistency over the years. It's like really what allows you to, not to say like running the marathon probably wasn't very demanding and very challenging for you, but it allows you to turn around and go run a marathon and not have it completely take over your body. Like you can do it and you can bounce back after it and feel good, and travel all over the place like you're doing.
Yeah, I hurt really bad for about 3 days after the marathon. Like my quads were a mess. But I would have to say by about 3.5 days, it kind of just like, it went away. And I've been able to run now. I did like 2 days on, 1 day off for about the last week and felt pretty good. So the marathon or the long run challenge really did kind of build up my endurance that way, I think, to build back to back long runs and to keep on going in the tank that way, if you can say. I didn't have many mileage or I didn't have many miles over the week to build my mileage necessarily. I was right around, like I said, I think I averaged probably 40 miles a week. My biggest week was about 60 because I had 2 long runs in that week, like a Saturday and a Sunday, or a Sunday and a Saturday long run. You can follow that.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's good. I mean, I do think the long run challenge is something to it. So if you guys do it, you need to let me know because I want to hear how it works for other people.
So when do you think the next one's coming up? When are we breaking some news here? When should we do the next one?
Oh, some people have said Carrie CIM, so Cal International is the first week of December, and it's a fast course. It's a little bit downhill, so a lot of people are like, why don't you just jump in it and see if you can try and qualify for the trials, which is 2:45. But I don't know, Varan. I think that I committed to working at the trials.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be fun to try to break 250. And I have a lot of marathons that I would like to do, but I still like to work. So I have to figure out, do I say no to work and yes to my running, or how do I do that?
It's a good problem to have, two things that you're passionate about and 2 things that you're good at. So it was really interesting to kind of dive into the training, and hear all about that. Now let's talk a little bit about the nutrition side of things, and let's start with kind of the daily nutrition side of things. So you're, like you mentioned, you're traveling a lot, you're, got kids to take care of, you're busy in kind of a lot of different things in your career. So what have been kind of through all that some consistent things you've tried to do in terms of nutrition and fueling for workouts that you feel like are there any principles over the years that you've tried to follow that you've said, okay, this has kept me at a certain level?
Yeah, I think things have changed a little bit because I'm not running nearly as much as I once was. My stomach has been better, and I do think that's from UCAN, to be honest. I've been able to figure out how to hydrate, how to fuel before runs, what to do during the day. But Varn, I'm so normal that I laugh about it. Like we were just chatting beforehand about dinosaur chicken nuggets. I mean, I never would have eaten those when I was, trying to race for Olympic teams, but I eat them now. And that's not every day. It might happen once every 2 months, but I'm not afraid to eat pretty normal, if that's what you want to call it. Like I'll go to Chipotle. We went out and had burgers last night and we had wings beforehand. You know, I'm a pretty normal eater. I'm not real healthy at times, but I think what I can tell you is I'm not one to sit with a bag of chips. You know, like I'll have chips probably every other day or whatever it is, but I'm not going to sit in my bed or sit on TV or watch TV eating a bag of chips. Like if Charlie saw me have a milkshake every single night, which I do, he understands that I have a milkshake that's like probably an 8-ounce glass. It's not like I'm having a 15-ounce milkshake, you know? So I eat very normal. I don't eat perfectly. I'm not super healthy, but I don't think I overindulge in the things that we shouldn't overindulge in. I indulge a lot, but not overindulge. Things that have worked for me though, for training purposes, is I do have a lot of UCAN. I love to have the bars. I bring a bar for every morning that I travel. So when I travel for 4 days, I have at least 4 bars for my breakfast. And then I'll also have some just for snacks. And I did for my races and my long runs. I always use my UCAN Super Starch along with the hydrate. And you know, it really has saved me. My son Everett, not Charlie, that's not my son. Everett, my middle child.
Sometimes it feels like that, right? You know,
Sometimes I mean, it is just what it is. But Everett and I probably 5-6 days a week have a chocolate UCAN shake every afternoon because he needs it and mama needs it. So, you know, I'm constantly kind of thinking about how to put good stuff in my body, but there's a Dr. Pepper every day. There might be a chicken fajita for breakfast rather than for lunch. I mean, if you guys were a fly on my wall, you'd probably be like, she eats that. But the consistent thing is I move my body 5 days a week. And like I said, I don't overindulge in things that are going to really break me down and you know, cause a lot of weight gain or cause poor performance in my running world now.
So for you, like what have been some of the, in your post-professional training life, what have been some of the challenges that you face just surrounding fueling for your workouts? You know, whether it's kind of how you feel after your workout and trying to fuel the right way to, you know, to have enough energy to go about your day, or the actual fueling for workouts. Has there been anything that had been particularly challenging to you?
I think the big thing right now for me is hydration with water. You know, like I remember to make my shakes. I remember to bring my shakes with me on my run. It's just, I am not very good about getting water intake. And I hear that more and more the older I get, that a lot of people have the same issue. So what I was doing, and this was really going to have to get back on schedule. I've been kind of slacking in post-marathon mode where I'm just doing whatever, but I would fill up the big shaker bottle of UCAN. So those of you who have, I should have brought it up here to show you guys, but we have, what is that, a 20 ouncer?
Yeah, I think 24 ounces. Yeah.
4. So I was drinking, so I weigh like in between 120 and 130. So I was trying to drink, what is that, half your body weight. So I was drinking like 3 of those a day for probably the last 6 weeks of my marathon training. And I know some people are like, you have to, but I have to do that. Like I have to drink a whole bottle and I can guzzle it. That's one reason why I never drank alcohol. I could drink the whole bottle and my kids are like, mom, 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 mom. So, but I was doing that and I do think that has really helped. So that's one thing I've neglected myself with since I've been a professional runner is my water intake. And I have to do that for my muscles and I have to do that for my health. So, getting back on that. And I think just eating enough, Varn, that's the big thing for me. The good thing that UCAN has done for me has been able to keep my you know, carbohydrates kind of at that level all day long. But I go like this up and down. If you were to look at my meals, they're not real consistent. They're not always enough. You know, you look at a lot of athletes, most of us on this webcam right now are not getting enough calories in. And that's just because we're burning. And so that's been a hard thing for me to remember to feed myself because I'm feeding everybody else and I'm busy. So those are probably the 2 big things. Enough and drink.
Oh, sorry, Carrie. I was going to say, so for you actually in terms of using the chocolate UCAN shake throughout your day, you're actually not using it to replace a meal. It's actually supplemental calories for you. Like it's allowing you to get more and keep your energy level where you might previously just have not been eating something at that time, right?
I mean, that's when Everett, in the summertime, he's obviously not at school, but whenever it comes home from school, that's our treat. And it also, I need it by then because usually this is how it works. I'll do my run from 7:30 to say 8:30 or 9. I jump on the computer, see what I've missed in that hour and a half, start working, have something quick to eat or a shake quick at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then I forget. I'll just go through till 12:45 when Greer comes home from his school, and then I'm like, oh shoot, I haven't eaten anything. And then the other kids are coming at 2. So by 3 o'clock, when the other kids are kind of ready for their afternoon snack, I am ready for an afternoon snack. And that has saved me from yelling really loud. I've said it, like if my neighbors can hear me at 3:30, then they know I haven't had my UCAN chocolate shake. The energy level has gone and I'm hangry. So yeah, it's been a really nice blessing to have just because we all like it. It tastes good, but it really gets us through those next 3 hours till we have dinner.
Awesome. That's good insight into kind of a different way to think about, using UCAN, not just before long runs or before marathon workouts, but even just as energy stability for your day. Now let's talk a little bit about the actual marathon fueling and how you incorporate it into your training. So yeah, give us a sense of how you were fueling as the runs got longer, say 10 miles, 12 miles and up. What were you doing from a fueling standpoint, both pre-run and during run, if anything?
Yeah, so I do have this is my water bottle.
There you go.
So, what happened? Oh, that's because my sister's calling me. I'm sorry. I'm going to, I don't know how to, can you still see me, Baron?
Oh, yeah, I can still see it. Yeah.
Okay. My sister, so my computer went funny, but anyway,
yeah,
so this
it was such a great long run this morning, such a great
I'll chat more about it. So anyway, I have my UCAN bottle here, and this is what I'll do. I put in one of my super starch packs, maybe not entirely all of it, probably like 3/4 of it, and I put that in before like a 10 to 12 mile run, and I drink this about a half an hour before I go on that run, and then I didn't necessarily need to take another bottle with me, but I was running in the winter, in the summer months, so I always kind of brought another bottle with UCAN with me just because it was so hot and humid, and I wanted to be able to use that along with being able to stop at the water fountains or whatever along the way. So I always knew I could find water, but if I needed fuel, I carried it with me. And
so you were carrying. So sorry, Carrie, just to clarify. So in the hotter months, you would still carry some extra super starch with you, even if it was a run that, say, in cooler months, you may not need it just because you felt like you might be working harder in the hotter months, you might need some additional fuel, or were you carrying the hydrate, the electrolyte with you in the hotter months?
I carried more fuel. I carried more of the super starch just because I wanted to make sure I had it. And a lot of times I came home and I hadn't even touched it, or it would be like 2 sips or something like that. But once I got past like the 12-mile mark, because that would be about 90 minutes into my runs, I would rely heavily on my bottle. So 30 minutes before I would chug a whole, it'd be about, maybe this much of the bottle. So like, I guess about 8 to 10 ounces of it. And then on the run, I would have a full bottle with me and get through more and more as the miles, got more and more. So by 2 hours, I would get through almost a full bottle. And maybe I would have, 4 ounces left. So for the marathon, I got to 24 miles and then I took my belt off with my actual bottle, and I was pretty much done with that bottle. But one thing that happened marathon morning was I had to drink my drink 45 minutes beforehand, and I got pretty nervous because that was about 15 minutes earlier than I normally take it, but it worked perfectly. I mean, I felt great. Like I said, I got to about mile 25, but I didn't feel bad. My legs just were tired.
Yeah.
So
and that's the reality of the marathon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what I did marathon morning and what I did for, I guess, like 2 hours plus, I would put in one super starch and then one of the hydrates, just because I like the taste of them together. And I felt like I needed to have both of those in there.
Yep. And so the hydrate that Carrie was holding up, so that's electrolytes only, no carbohydrates or no calories. So with the super starch, you've got some electrolytes in it, but kind of beefing it up, especially for marathon morning for race day, or even for some of those longer runs, especially if they're being done in the summer heat. I think that's a great call and a great way to do it. What the UCAN in your bottle that you were mixing it up kind of at a a lot of people have carried UCAN in gel form. For some people that works. For other people, the taste isn't where they want it to be, or it's just a little bit too thick. So you were carrying it more in a drink consistency in your bottle, is that right?
Definitely. I mean, it was thicker at times. It'd be thicker at times because it would settle it for a little bit. I didn't do my bottles the night before. I would shake them the morning of. So a lot of times I would just shake it as I was running, kind of mix it up a little bit. But yeah, I would put it in with a full bottle of water. So it would be, what are these, 12 ounces?
Yep.
Yep. So I would do 1 pack of 12 ounces, 1 pack to 12 ounces.
Now, in terms of carrying your bottle, how do you carry it? What do you like to use to keep your bottle on you when you're running?
I laugh a little bit because I think I was the only sub 3 hour marathoner with a belt on. Just because everyone else,
carry the fuel you want,
well, I don't know where they were. I guess they were just taking the race fuel or something, but I was concerned because I had practiced and obviously I love UCAN. So I'm like, you can't grab from other people. I don't know. And I wasn't fast enough to put it on the elite table. So I thought it was kind of weird, but I have just a 1 bottle belt. So my belt sits kind of at an angle right in the small of my back. And I have no issue with it. The only thing I was wondering why my left abs were kind of sore after. I'm like, why wouldn't my right abs be just as sore as the other one? And I think it was from the buckle. So, going that far, going at that pace and really having to engage my lower abs, I could tell that something was sitting there for a few days after, but it wasn't bad.
Nice. Well, that's great, Carrie. So we kind of got a good rundown for those who are UCAN fans already listening to this, or people that might be curious about it, both how you use it in your training, how you kind of incorporated it throughout your days, both in terms of using the bar for breakfast when you're traveling, plus the chocolate shake midday, and then how you actually use it for the marathon. For folks that are still on, we've got most people still here tuned in. We are opening it up to questions for Carrie now. So if you do have any questions, we got a couple already. Feel free to put them in the chat. One, just more of a comment than a question. Kristen suggests let's do a UCAN long run challenge to get ready for Boston. So, yeah. Carrie, I think we may have a fun idea to kick off the year.
It would be fun. I'm telling you, you got to plan it. We can plan it definitely, but I think that we need about maybe 14 weeks before the marathon. But I'll finalize everything and we can do it.
Let's do it. You and I will chat about that, Kristen. We like that idea. So we've got another question from Adam. He says, Carrie, you've been involved broadcasting a lot of big races from Chicago to New York to Boston as well. Is there a dream race that you'd love to be part of the broadcast that you haven't been involved with yet?
Oh, dream broadcast. I would like to be at the Olympics someday. Right now, it would be kind of tough because you have to be there for so long. And my children are so little that I don't want to miss out on anything. But I have so enjoyed. Last year, I got to do Boston for the first time, and it was amazing. Being in New York, seeing Shalane win was such a fun experience. Chicago has been so much fun over the last, 5-6 years. I just watched the world record set, and I was an arm's length away from Bridget Kosgei, and at the Olympic trials, I was on the motorcycle, no joke, 10 days after having Greer, and watched that amazing, example of camaraderie when you saw Amy Craig, sorry. She's been married for many years, but I always go back to her maiden name. Amy Craig and Shalane Flanagan working together, and then Des coming from behind. And oh my goodness, I have had so much fun doing it. So is there one race? I guess ultimately it'd be fun to be on the Olympic broadcast. But I think there's so many different races that are really fun. It all started for me way back in like 2002 at Rock and Roll Marathons, and I've enjoyed every single one of them.
That's awesome. Wow, that's that's when your broadcasting career started. I didn't know that. Yeah. Matthew wants to know, what's your go-to meal the day before your race?
It's changed over the years. I used to have like pesto pasta with sun-dried tomatoes and grilled chicken and all this fun stuff, and I could handle it for the
That
shorter.
was when you were on the track, when you were competing on the track.
Yep. So for 1500, 5K, I could handle that. But for some reason now when I eat pasta, I have to use a restroom. And so my stomach doesn't like it. And I was very worried about that in the marathon. I'm like, I don't have time. I don't have enough fitness to play with any, extra time sitting on a toilet. So I wanted to make sure that I ate something really, easy on my stomach. And rice has done that for me. So I came home that night after having some different obligations that I had to do. And I had old rice that was like 2 days old. So leftover rice with some grilled chicken that was also like 2 days old, and just kept it really simple and plain. And ironically, I felt really good. I had to go to the bathroom, but I didn't have to stop, which was good. And I just had to go number one during the race. We say number one and number two around our house a lot right
Oh
now.
yeah,
So
that's
everybody had
like
to go number one for like 20 miles of that race. But then for some reason, it just went away. So I must have sweat it out or something.
That's awesome. That's funny. So maybe this feeds into this question. Richie asks, what kind of mental tricks did you use to help you get through the tough parts of the race? Yeah, what do you like to do, generally speaking, as well as what did you do for Twin Cities?
Yeah, I mean, typically I break my race up, whether it's on the track, on the roads, marathon, whatever, cross country. I do word cues. And, for 5K, I would do one for every mile or one for every K. So the first K could be relax, the second K could be sit, the third K could be get ready, fourth K, like you're doing great, 5K sprint, whatever it is. Um, and for this marathon, I tried just to really get to the hills of by St. Thomas, for those of you who know the hills of St. Thomas and Summit Avenue. I tried really hard just to enjoy it and pretend it was a long run, and not think too much. And then when I got to Summit, I just kept saying maintain, maintain, sustain, sustain. I just had these words that kept kind of coming back to me when times got tough. So even, I guess I shouldn't say just when times got tough. It was even when times are going well. I was like, maintain, maintain, you can do this, keep it up. Because there's all those negative thoughts that come into our minds when we're starting to hurt. And that's when I start to use those positive word cues, and I sort of kind of squash them right away, or try to. And I've used that for years. And I also do some visualization where, like for the last week, I was thinking about the race. I'd shut my eyes and I'd kind of go through downtown. I'd go around the lakes. I'd go on the river road, come up the hills, just walk through that whole day. I know where my last porta potty stop is before I go to the start line. I see myself succeeding and doing things that I've never done before, like just all these positive things. And, there will be negative moments. We know that no matter what race distance you're running. But if you can just constantly believe and go back to those positive things you thought about, you're going to do so much better.
And in terms of inspiration and pushing you in the marathon, you were of course wearing the Brave Like Gabe singlet in honor of Gabe Grunwald, who I know was a close personal friend of yours. We knew her really well and got to know her really well. What kind of strength did you draw just from her memory and kind of representing her on your chest?
Yeah, there were a number of different people I could represent. Moms on the Run has been such a great organization to work with, and the women that I coach and help with, I'm the fitness director, the national fitness director for them. So, I could have worn them on my chest, which would have been so fun, and they would have loved it. I could have worn UCAN. I could have worn Well Beats. I could have, represented Adidas, who has helped me forever in my running career. But in that moment, I thought, you know what? I'm going to represent my friend who fought so hard, not only for her life, but for this running community, and now for everyone else. And she still does it from heaven. And so it meant a lot to have Brave Like Gabe on my chest. And, I did think about her. I had my visualization and my word cues. But to be honest, I had Brave Like Gabe right here close to my heart, and I had Gabe close to my heart. So it was pretty powerful. And that's where I threw my water bottle, was at the Brave Like Gabe cheering section. And it just was kind of like, okay, this is where Gabe would start her crazy kick. So it's where I need to start mine. And she kept me going that day for sure.
Yeah, just appreciate, I think a lot of people appreciated you representing her in that way. We have another question from Denise, who wants to know, were you able to interview or visit with Paula Radcliffe after her record was broken? So this is the women's marathon record in Chicago, which was broken at the Chicago Marathon. Paula Radcliffe's record was broken. So have you had a chance to interview Paula?
Yeah, actually, I sat right next to Paula in the tent afterwards, and I gave her a hug, and I did say to her, "How you doing?" You know, because that's been part of her identity for a long, long time, and I'm sure it was hard for her. But she was good. She said she, knew it was going to happen soon because these ladies are now starting to run really fast. Um, and I think that she's okay. I'm sure she's a little bit bummed, to be honest. I mean, who wouldn't be? That's a pretty big thing to have everyone introduce you as. But she still has so many accolades, and she's a class act of a woman. And I really appreciate that I have access to her at times. And I'm going to be doing a live podcast with her in New York City at the Run Center. I think it's on Saturday at 10 a.m. before the New York City Marathon. So I'm going to get to chat with her about that. But I heard her talk to her daughter it was private, and I'm not going to say exactly what she was saying, but there is concern as what happens now for her. And she was as graceful as you could be. There's going to be a lot more for Paula Radcliffe. And it's just fun that we got to see Bridget do it. And hopefully, we'll see it again.
Yeah, and like you were saying, I'll mention it again, Carrie and Paula, the New York City Marathon weekend, for anybody that'll be in New York. You can see it on Carrie's social. There's a link to register, but she will be interviewing Paula at a live show, actually interviewing Abigail Anderson, who's Gabe Grunwald's sister, who we were just talking about. Abigail as well will be part of that. And we'll have a fun live show together in New York City the night before, which if you check out Carrie's social media in the next few days, or the UCAN social media, you'll see more about that. But yeah, Denise, if you will be in New York, then you're asking about Carrie and Paula. You'll have a great chance to hear them chat then. It is interesting what you were saying, because I think in a way, like, there is that fear if you hold a record and that's what you've been known for, what next? But hopefully also when records are broken, it's a chance for the person who held the record to tell their story again. And for, now Paula's name is coming up, hopefully a lot again. And people want to hear about, like, oh, what was it like when you broke the record, where maybe before there might not be as much interest in that.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Like I said, Bridget Koski went out so fast. I mean, she was at 2:10 pace for the first 5K. And she ran the race much different than Paula ran her race. And so it was one of those races where I thought, oh, it's another one of those ladies that are trying to get this record and they could blow up in the back half of the race. And she didn't. She ran pretty even. So pretty spectacular day. And I wish I could go and sit and watch Paula's race back in, 2003 when she set that. It would have been fun to watch her too in the spot that I was. Because you guys, seriously, I was, an arm's length away for the entire race. So it was pretty cool.
That's you have the best view in the house. I mean, I saw a video that you posted of your view of the record being broken by Bridget. I was just like, man, Carrie was right there to see it. Front row seat, like, that's the definition of front row seat. Carrie, appreciate you spending so much time with us. We're going to wrap it up. We got one last question from Kristen, which we'll take it back to the nutrition side of things. So we had talked a lot about the marathon fueling, the pre-fueling, fueling during, kind of what you do throughout the day to help you maintain your energy, your philosophy on meals. We didn't speak too much about recovery, and Kristen wanted to know, do you focus on protein after runs or workouts? So is like a specific recovery meal, and maybe you can talk about what you did as a professional athlete and how you approach it now, like whether or not a specific recovery meal is a focus or if you just address it in other ways.
Yeah, I think that I'm always thinking about having some protein, but I am not one to add protein to a shake or add protein to some sort of smoothie. I am one to eat protein. So I would have to say that, yes, I'm always kind of thinking about, after a run, what can I eat that's substantial to help me come back from that run. So, you know, if I do my hard 20-minuters or my long runs, there's maybe a little more thought that goes into it. But like I said, you'll find me eating chicken fajita at 9:30 in the morning or 10 o'clock. You know, I usually eat a lot of chicken. I might have some eggs, you know, but I'm usually having a heavy protein, and it's more so because I crave it. You know, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I just like to eat. And if I don't have, you know, chicken or eggs, usually there's some kind of peanut butter that's involved. And so I would have to say, if you saw what I ate, it would be there's a lot of carbs and there's a lot of protein, and that's pretty much all day long. One thing that I do need to work on is fruit and vegetables. That has always been a little bit it bugs my stomach a little bit. So I have to be a little bit more strategic as to when I eat those. But you can find me eating, you know, protein and carbs pretty much every time I put something into my mouth.
Awesome, Carrie. Well, appreciate you giving such a deep dive into kind of everything you've done over the years to get to where you've gotten, as well as everything that you did to get ready for this marathon. Want to give everybody who attended a huge thanks for joining us. This whole session was recorded and will be emailed to you here within the next couple hours. So if you joined us late, if you only got to listen to a little bit of it, if you want to scroll back and get more of Carrie's words of wisdom so you can remember everything she said, then give this a listen. And Carrie, before we sign up, how can people follow what you're doing? You've got a great podcast where you interview a lot of the top names in running, as well as a lot of just other genuinely interesting stories in running. You've got some fun live events coming up that people can take part in. How do we keep track of everything that's going on in your world?
Well, I handle all the social media. As you know, Barn, I am not like an expert at social media. So I would have to say the best place for you to find me is at Carrie Tollefson. So Carrie Tollefson Instagram. My Twitter is under C Tolly Run, so it gets a little screwy there. But either at Carrie Tollefson or C Tolly Run, that's typically where you're going to find all of my stuff. Carrie Tollefson on Facebook. But you also can go to ctollyrun.com and look at all of our old YouTube videos. We might start getting those back a little bit more. Any of our podcasts. And I tell everybody this: if you go to carrieTollefson.com or any of my social media outlets, you can email or send a message directly to me, and usually I get back to you guys right away. I just love this running community, and I think we all can learn from each other. So if there's anything I can help you guys out with, I'll try my best to get back to you. And thank you for your support. I love it. I live for the run a lot of times. I live for my family and friends, obviously, first, but the run has saved me. So hopefully you guys can learn a little bit. I'm not as scientific as I maybe should be. I'm pretty simple, but I think that's okay as well. So just get out the door, put one foot in front of the other. It doesn't matter how fast you go. You'll feel better once you come back home.
Perfect. Well, Carrie, thanks so much for sharing your words of wisdom with us. We got to tell you, love having Carrie part of the UCAN team, one of the most positive people that you'll talk to. So thanks for sharing that with everybody today. And thanks to you all for joining. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.